This is APAC, Channel 648, Australia's public affairs channel.
Coalition talking points being leaked before the first day of sitting?
If the leaking was from the cabinet, would be a very bad sign. If it's just from the coalition party room, I don't know that I'd read too much from the. Yes, but was it leaked from the Prime Minister's office or from the party room, from a party member? Prepared by them, yeah. But it would have been one of the, or any one of the coalition members would have leaked it. There are some very unhappy campers in the coalition, Conservatives, supporters of Tony Abbott, no fans of Malcolm Turnbull. His challenges, Malcolm Turnbull's challenges, are within his own, on his own side, much more than they are from Labor at the moment, and this is an indication of that. But I wouldn't read too much into it. You know, we know that there are unhappy campers in his camp, and this is just further evidence of that.
An election year ahead, Malcolm Turnbull's faced with the prospect of having to please his own members and please the public at the same time. Who do you think he's going to choose
Well, I think there are some areas, some issues on which he will tread very carefully in order to avoid causing too much dissent on his own side. I think he'll be very cautious about how he approaches the same-sex marriage issue, for example, and the climate change issue. Both of those are hot red-button issues amongst the Conservatives. So he'll stick to the plebiscite argument, the plebiscite plan. I doubt he'll deviate from that at all, which I think is in some ways unfortunate, because I think the plebiscite should occur at the same time as the election. But so there are some issues where he'll be very cautious. But if he stays away from those issues and doesn't upset the Conservatives, I think he'll be safe enough.
What do you make of the government's change of heart in giving the Greens and Labor access to the secret
balance, yeah.
report if it is just one person from each party?
I think the government's making a mistake allowing access to that secret volume at all. The reason that it's secret is not because it adds anything to the conclusions, the big picture, the legislative implications of the Royal Commission, the need for change in the building industry, the need for to deal with criminal behaviour. The secret volume, the confidential volume, is all about protecting witnesses in a criminal prosecution and not compromising a fair trial. I don't see how releasing that information to senators, whether it's crossbench Labor or Greens, is constructive. I don't think it will change anything. I doubt very much whether Glenn Lazarus or Jackie Lambie will change their positions as a result of reading it. There won't be anything in it that is informative in terms of whether or not they should support the ABCC bill. I think the government's made a mistake in agreeing to that. I'm not sure I'll even bother to look at it, because I don't think it will add anything to my position. I think the government needs to have a good think about how obliging it wants to be on this issue with the crossbench.
What is your position on this?
The ABCC? It's quite coercive legislation, and as a Libertarian, Liberal Democrats are opposed to coercion, so it has elements in it that I'm not very comfortable about. On the other hand, it is intended to address a particular issue in the building industry, and as the Royal Commission demonstrated, there is a very nasty culture in that industry: coercion, bullying, bribery, violence. It needs to be dealt with. So therefore, in a recognition of that, what I have agreed with the government is I will support the bill subject to it having a sunset clause. The only issue has been around how long that sunset clause should be, that sunset period should be. We have now agreed on 8 years.
The federal government appears to be backing away from its tax reform process, where there will be a green paper followed by a white paper followed by a tax package. Do you have concerns about that?
Yes, I do. It sounds very much to me as if we're being softened up for an increase in the GST, and we'll be told that it'll be okay because they're going to lower personal tax and perhaps company tax. The history of increases in GSTs around the world is once you increase it once, it'll then go up again. So you end up with some European countries, for example, with their VATs or GSTs being around 20% or over 20% in some cases. I suspect that this will be the beginning of a process where it gets ratcheted up. It's already happened in New Zealand, as we know. I also don't believe the income tax and company tax reductions will be anywhere near enough. And the underlying issue is Australia has a spending problem. We have far too many people receiving welfare who are not poor. That's the fundamental issue. Welfare should be for the poor people, not for people who just would like other people's money. That is no reason for expecting welfare. The government has got to get over this idea that it can't upset people, and it's going to have to convince people who are receiving money from other people, from the government, that they don't need it. And they can get by quite well without it. And lowering taxes would help to do that. So if they keep more of their money in the first place, then they don't need other people's money, or there's less, they think they won't need it.
The crossbench senators will be meeting with the Prime Minister at some point. Do you have a wish list that you're going to present to him?
No. My position is always stop spending our money and stop interfering in our lives. So if you sort of use that as your starting point, I have a very, very long list, but he knows about that. Malcolm and I have had very good discussions about libertarian values, so I don't need to explain my philosophy to him.
It's very concise.
Eh?
It's very concise.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Malcolm's very well aware of my philosophy. He's fairly sympathetic to it. Enough? Good.